The call came in on a Monday, May 19, 2025. A day that would soon be seared into the memory of Honeopath, South Carolina. Concerns had been raised. The Department of Social Services flagged a potential danger, a danger to a child, an 8-month-old baby girl. Officers were dispatched to a residence on Shirley Avenue. They had no idea what awaited them. What they were about to step into was not just a home. It was a house of horrors, a place where innocence was surrounded by unimaginable squalor and neglect. The air itself seemed to warn them, heavy with a stench that hinted at the decay within. This was just the beginning of a truly shocking discovery. Police approached the unassuming exterior. Behind that door, a nightmare was unfolding, a nightmare for a tiny, helpless infant. The officers braced themselves. They had a job to do, protect the vulnerable, but nothing could have fully prepared them for the scene they were about to witness. The initial report spoke of an unsafe environment. That was an understatement of monumental proportions. What they found was a testament to human cruelty and indifference. A place where life, both human and animal, was clearly an afterthought, a casualty of profound neglect. The quiet street gave no indication of the secrets hidden inside those walls. The threshold was crossed, and with it, a descent into a scene of pure filth. The conditions were immediately apparent: severe, unsafe, unsanitary. This wasn't just mess. It was an active biohazard, the kind of place that makes your skin crawl and your stomach churn. How could anyone live like this? More importantly, how could a baby survive in such an environment? These were the questions that instantly raced through the minds of the responding officers. They were there for a child, but the sheer scale of the neglect extended far beyond one infant. It was a systemic failure, a complete breakdown of care and responsibility. The first few steps inside confirmed their worst fears, and then some. It was clear that this was no ordinary welfare check. This was an emergency, a crisis unfolding in real time. The priority was the baby. Find her. Get her out. But the path to her was littered with obstacles, both living and decaying. The scene was chaotic, a sensory overload of foul odors and the unsettling sounds of distressed animals. This home, meant to be a sanctuary, was instead a prison of filth. The officers knew this case would stick with them, a grim reminder of the darkness that can exist in any neighborhood, on any street. The house was infested, not just with insects, but with numerous animals: raccoons, rabbits, dogs, cats, chickens, creatures that should have been cared for, loved. Instead, they were trapped in this living hell. Animal feces and waste were everywhere, caked on floors, smeared on walls. The stench was overpowering, a toxic miasma that burned the eyes and choked the throat. Dr. Kim Sanders from Anderson County PAWS would later describe the ammonia levels as overwhelming. Imagine breathing that in, day after day. Imagine an 8-month-old baby girl breathing that poison. It's a thought that chills you to the bone. And then there was the goat, a decomposing goat carcass, left to rot in the bathtub. The sheer callousness is difficult to comprehend. A bathtub, a place for cleansing, had been turned into a makeshift coffin, a symbol of the utter disregard for life that permeated this house. This wasn't an accident. This was a deliberate act of neglect, allowing an animal to die and decay in the very space where human beings were supposed to live. The horror didn't end there. Another dead baby goat was found, stuffed into a Tupperware bin, in the kitchen. The heartlessness is staggering. This was a charnel house, not a home. Dr. Sanders and her team from PAWS eventually removed 41 live animals from the property. 25 dogs, 3 cats, 5 raccoons, 6 chickens, and 2 rabbits, each one a victim. Each one bearing the scars of this horrific existence. They were severely dehydrated, covered in their own filth. The majority were extremely emaciated, starved for food, for water, for a shred of kindness. Dr. Sanders stated it plainly: the home was unfit for any living creature, let alone an 8-month-old baby girl. Her words paint a grim picture of suffering, a slow, agonizing existence for these innocent animals. 6 deceased animals were found in total on that property, each one a silent testament to the cruelty that had transpired. The conditions were so vile, so putrid, that even seasoned professionals were shaken. Chief Christopher Miller, a man with over 3 decades of service in law enforcement, would later confess he had never encountered such a horrific situation involving unsanitary conditions and such a large number of animals. This wasn't just a dirty house. It was a scene of profound animal abuse and child endangerment, a vortex of neglect that had swallowed everything within its walls. The sheer scale of it was almost too much to bear. Amidst this squalor, this nightmare of filth and decay, was the baby, an 8-month-old girl, the reason for the initial call. Miraculously, she was found to be in pretty good condition for the unsanitary conditions of the house, according to Chief Miller. This news, a small beacon of light in an otherwise pitch-black scenario, is almost unbelievable. How she managed to escape more serious physical harm in that toxic environment is a question that lingers. Perhaps it was sheer luck, or perhaps the intervention came just in the nick of time, before the full impact of her surroundings could take its devastating toll on her tiny body. The baby was quickly removed from the house of horrors. She was placed with a relative, a safe haven away from the nightmare she had been forced to endure for the first months of her precious life. While her physical condition was reported as relatively good, the unseen scars, the potential developmental impacts of such profound neglect remain a concern. To think of her tiny lungs inhaling that ammonia-laden air, her small hands possibly touching surfaces contaminated with animal waste, is deeply disturbing. She was a silent victim, her cries unheard or ignored by those who should have protected her most fiercely. And what of the parents? Kayla Renard and Nicholas Foley, the individuals responsible for this den of misery. When confronted with the reality of their depravity, when their child was taken from their custody, when they faced arrest, their reaction was chilling. Chief Miller described them as showing no emotion. They were sitting there calm, no tears, no remorse, no apparent concern for the infant daughter they had subjected to such appalling conditions, or for the dozens of animals suffering under their roof. This cold indifference is perhaps the most disturbing aspect of this entire horrific case. It speaks to a profound lack of empathy, a void where compassion should be. This lack of reaction from Renard and Foley is a haunting detail. It's the kind of detail that makes you question what goes on in the minds of people who can inflict such suffering and feel nothing, or at least show nothing. Were they overwhelmed? Were they incapable of understanding the gravity of their actions? Or were they simply callous, devoid of the basic human decency that compels us to care for the vulnerable? The image of them, calm amidst the chaos and the heartbreak, is a stark contrast to the distress of the animals and the potential trauma inflicted upon their own child. It's a coldness that sends shivers down your spine. The law moved swiftly. Kayla Renard and Nicholas Foley were arrested. They faced serious charges: unlawful conduct toward a child, ill treatment of animals. These charges carry significant weight, reflecting the severity of their alleged crimes against both the innocent baby and the helpless creatures in their care. Additionally, they were cited for violations of town ordinances, a smaller but still important aspect of holding them accountable for the state of their property and the danger it posed. The wheels of justice began to turn, slowly but surely, in response to the horrors uncovered on Shirley Avenue. Justice must be served. Both Renard and Foley were given $10,000 surety bonds. Nicholas Foley managed to post his bond the very next day, Tuesday, May 20th, and was released. The thought of him walking free, even temporarily, after what was discovered in that house, is a bitter pill to swallow for many. It underscores the often frustrating pace of legal proceedings. But the charges remain, and the fight for justice for that little girl and those abused animals is far from over. The community, and indeed anyone who hears this story, watches and waits, hoping for an outcome that truly reflects the suffering inflicted. For the 41 surviving animals, the road to recovery has begun. They are now under the dedicated care of Dr. Sanders and the team at PAWS. They are receiving medical attention for their dehydration, emaciation, and the filth that covered them. Dr. Sanders expects them to recover physically, but the deeper wounds, the emotional trauma they sustained, she says, will be a bigger challenge to overcome. These animals have known only neglect, cruelty, and a constant struggle for survival. Learning to trust again, to feel safe, will be a long and arduous journey for each of them. Their silent suffering demands our attention and our support. This case, as Chief Miller attested, is one of the most horrific he has encountered. It's a stark reminder that evil can fester anywhere, hidden behind ordinary doors. The baby girl is safe now, a small mercy in a sea of depravity. The animals are on a path to healing, but the images from that house, the decomposing goat, the stench, the sheer number of suffering creatures, and the chilling indifference of the parents, will not soon be forgotten. It is a call to vigilance, a demand for justice, and a hope that such horrors will not be repeated. We must protect the innocent. We must be their voice.